my channel. I get a lot of questions about how I do my vintage and pin-up hairstyles and how I am able to style my hair in all of the various styles that you see on my channel and on my Instagram. And in real life too, obviously. I do actually exist off of the internet. I wanted to share some of the tips and tricks I've picked up over my 5 or so years of vintage hairstyling experience now as to how you can improve both your ability and your confidence when it comes to vintage hairstyling. It can seem so incredibly intimidating, but I promise you it does not have to be. My number one tip is a very obvious one, and that is simply practice, practice, practice. Practice truly does make perfect, or at least practice makes improvement in this case, which is the main thing. I still do not think that most of my vintage hairstyles are perfect. That's kind of what I like about them. They are unique to me, and my victory rolls are not always even. My bump bangs are not always perfectly symmetrical, but that's okay because they are on my head and they still look great anyways. You are not going to sit down in front of the mirror before a really important event and with no previous experience pull a perfect vintage updo out of the air like magic pixie dust. When you have some time off, or perhaps before you go in the shower, just practice different methods of styling your hair. Practice things like rolls, poodle sections, pin curling. Familiarize yourself with the motions and the way that your hair likes to sit and roll. My second tip is research. There are so many both modern reproduction and true vintage hairstyling guides online, and I have this beautiful vintage hairstyling book from Lauren Reynolds, which is full of both products, hairstyling tools, silhouettes, methods of curling your hair, and so many beautiful vintage hairstyles. You can both try to recreate the exact hairstyles, or you can take elements from styles that you like and try them out in different ways. There are loads of videos, pictorials, tutorials available online from both vintage and modern resources that you can use to improve your technique. Sometimes it's not about not being able to do something, it's just that perhaps the way that it's being explained in a particular resource just isn't clicking with your brain. So finding different ways of teaching might finally light that spark light bulb moment in your brain where you understand how something is meant to be done. My third tip is consider your hair. Everyone's hair is different. We all have different textures, lengths, hair types. Things like dye and whether you have a lot of damage can also make a big difference, and obviously things like length and haircut, whether your hair is curly or straight or wavy. I personally always do vintage hairstyles on hair that has some form of curl or wave or texture. I find it basically impossible to do hairstyles like this on hair that is completely straight. So if you have naturally curly hair, you are definitely not excluded from the Vintage Hairstyling Club. If you have a black hair texture that is natural and very beautiful and big, there are lots of hairstyling resources out there on how to do vintage hairstyles on natural hair. The same with naturally curly hair, Asian hair. There are so many things, but you should always consider your hair texture and thickness and type when you are following tutorials. Just because someone says that they need from behind their ear to the front to create a certain roll, if you have very thick hair you might need less, if you have very thin hair you might need more. You need to be willing to adapt and change up the method that you do a tutorial and a hairstyle to suit your own personal hair needs. My tip number 4 is time. Give yourself time to do the hairstyle. Giving yourself 5 minutes to create a set of perfect victory rolls is only going to lead to tears. You need to give yourself, on average, I would say at least 20 minutes, especially when you are a beginner, to do any vintage style. Obviously, as you become more experienced, there are styles that you will be able to do a lot quicker, but giving yourself that extra time when you are still learning and still becoming confident in your ability is going to mean that you feel a lot more confident overall and you don't end up feeling super duper flustered and completely freaked out. My tip number 5 is tools. Don't be afraid to use various hair tools and hairstyling aids to create these hairstyles. I know some people who can create like perfect victory rolls with their fingers, but I always find it easier to use a tool like this one, which is the Lauren Reynolds Roll and Go tool, which makes creating uniform rolls a hell of a lot easier. It's actually how I created nearly all of the rolls on top of my head today. Like this tool, this pin curl creating tool, which I use for all of my poodle styles. There are Gibson roll creators, there are bumper bang donuts, lots of different things that can create a really great foundation and just give you that little bit of extra help. It might be that once you've got more experience you decide you don't need these tools anymore, or you're like me and you keep using them because they make your life so much easier. Either way, then it's really great to use all of the resources available to make your hairstyling as easy as possible. Don't underestimate the fabulousness of things like hair nets to really save a slightly wobbly and loose set. I use this all the time when it gets super humid or when it's going to be really windy or rainy out. Things like snoods, hair flowers to cover any asymmetry in hairstyles. There are really so many things that can make your life a lot easier, and don't turn your nose up at them. And my sixth and final tip is just confidence. Confidence is something that will grow over time once you have a lot more experience and once you are used to failing a few times. You're going to fail a lot when you are learning how to do vintage hairstyles, trust me. And that's okay. You just have to be willing to dust yourself off, take the whole thing out and start over again. Some days your hair simply will not cooperate, and on those days you just have to be willing to roll with the punches. Learning things like how your hair responds to things when it is clean versus when it has not been washed for a few days, when it is first set versus perhaps when it is reset, how different tools can impact your styling, how different hair accessories can impact your styling, which types of hair tutorials tend to work best for you. Learning all of these things will help your confidence to grow a lot more. Remember that wearing your hairstyles with confidence will always make them look 1,000 times better. Even if you think things look terrible, people are so impressed with any form of vintage hairstyling that I promise you they will think you are a wizard, no matter what your opinion on it is. I do hope that this video was helpful for you and that it gave you a little bit of glimmer of light and happiness. Vintage hairstyling can be a really big scary thing, but I promise you it doesn't have to be, and you are going to do really well. I have obviously a lot of vintage hairstyles on my own channel, and I will leave a link to the playlist with all of my vintage brush outs and hair tutorials, and I will leave a link to some playlists below of creators that I think explain things really well. I love you all so very much. Do not forget that if you would like to tag me in any of your photos, all of my social media links are down below. I would love to see your vintage hairstyling efforts, and let me know how far along you are in your vintage hairstyling journey in the comments, as well as leaving any requests you have for content. Please do remember to have courage and be kind, and may all of your dreams come true, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!